It's finally Friday.
It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
Welcome to the Breeders' Cup edition of the Friday Show, presented by Woodbine Racetrack. I'm Scott Jagow in Southern California, trying to fight off the jet lag from the long flight from Melbourne, Australia, joined by Ray Paulick, and we've got a lot to talk about, Ray, but first things first, the day after, you have to tell me, can you put it into words, the Cubs winning the World Series?
It's really difficult. It was a fantastic series. I would have settled for just being in it. People have said that it was the best seventh game of World Series in history. I look at it this way. I went to my first Cub game at Wrigley Field in 1959. I've been a Cub fan ever since. As a sports fan, you invest time and, more importantly, emotion in the teams that you follow. I have invested a lot of emotion with the Cubs over the years. They've had some horrible teams, some disappointments. I finally got a positive ROI on that investment.
So my question is, do you think there were more drunk people in Chicago after the Cubs game or at the Melbourne Cup?
Well, I saw pictures from the Melbourne Cup, and I think they had to run out of beer. I mean, I don't.
They didn't.
Did they run out of beer? You were there, right?
Yeah.
Did they run out of beer?
They did not run out of beer. Although the guys who own Heartbreak City, they tried to drink the town of Melbourne dry. They really did. There's a funny video of the owner, Aidan Shields, who basically tackled a reporter on live television after Heartbreak City finished second. It was brilliant. All right, let's move on and talk about the Breeders' Cup. I was at Clocker's Corner and I talked to some industry people, just hear some opinions about horses they're keen to see over the two-day event.
Definitely Arrogate. I mean, the race that he ran in the Travers Stakes was so impressive. It was just, we've never seen a horse do that, to set a track record at Saratoga, of all places, for that distance.
I think actually Keen Ice might have a shot. I mean, don't sleep on Keen Ice, that's for sure. He's obviously he's going to be up against a lot of talented horses, but there seems to be a lot of speed in the Classic, and Keen Ice is just going to keep running forever.
Beholder stands out to me, though. I just think that she's going to turn the tables on Stellar Win and take on the 3-year-old Songbird, who's brilliant, but I think Beholder with Richard Mandela kind of puppeting the strings there is going to get it done.
Carolina in the Distaff, I think she's a real value at 12-1. I think the East Coast horses in general are real value because the California horses, and rightly so, they're all champions, will be so heavily played. That's a very tough race, but Pletcher looks like he's pointing towards this race, and he's pretty dangerous when he does that.
A horse I've been keen on for quite some time is Lamato for trainer Henry Candy. They were deciding between the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint and the mile, but I think ultimately they made the right choice. I think he'll get a mile. He ran in the Prix de la Forêt, which is the prep that Goldacova used 3 years in a row. So they came here for the firm ground, and I've seen him out here training. He looks absolutely fantastic.
I go in the sprint. I think we've got a horse called Home of the Brave. Hugo Palmer's for Godolphin. I think that's got a chance in the sprint. It'll be a big price, around 10-1 chance in the sprint, in the turf sprint. So I go along, Home of the Brave. We're in the Home of the Brave here, aren't we?
Well, Ray, as you heard there are so many different horses that people are talking about, which I think is a good thing. I think that speaks to the quality of this year's World Championships.
Well, they're all great races. Every year is a good Breeders' Cup, but this year is especially interesting to me because we're seeing more international participation from Japan, from South America. I think it's great when horses from all over the world compete on the same stage.
Well, let's get to the brass tacks. The Distaff on Friday kicks things off in terms of the big races, and it's got to be one of the best renditions of that race we've ever had when you have Songbird versus Beholder versus Stellar Wind.
Well, 1988 with Personal Ensign completing her perfect career, that was pretty great. This one could be too, because those three horses, and there's some good ones from back east, but I think the California trainers in their own backyard with good horses are really tough to beat. Songbird was facing older horses for the first time. We saw with American Pharoah last year, he destroyed older horses. I think that was a weak group, though. This is not a weak group that Songbird has to beat. And, she should win, but at 6-5, I just can't take her.
Yeah, and you got to look at Beholder, who she's at the end of her career, but she could go out with a swan song. Richard Mandela, I know, is going to have her ready. and she's tough as nails. So that stretch run should be thrilling. And in the Classic, we could also have a thrilling stretch run when you think about California Chrome and Arrowgate. How do you see that race shaping up?
It's really interesting from a pace standpoint because you've got several horses that wouldn't mind being on the lead or at least pressing it. But Melatonin is a front runner. He wants the lead. So, if they let him go, he could be tough. But California Chrome this year, he has proven to be a remarkable horse. I was not a believer going into this year, but what they've done with California Chrome this year, he's a monster.
Yeah, but it's so nice to have an older horse who is performing well. I wish there were more older horses that could compete with him and give him a run for his money. But there are a couple in this race that could upset, in my opinion. I think the pace could be on with that long run to the first turn. There's some speed in here. I'm looking at maybe one of the Jerkins horses. Jimmy Jerkins has Shaman Ghost in here and FNX. I think they both could be sitting on a big performance. And his father was the Giant Killer, so it's possible. Are there any other horses you're keen on in any of the other races?
The horse that really interests me is Ulysses in the Turf. He hasn't done much. He's a Grade 3 winner, Group 3 winner in Europe, limited career, but he's trained by Michael Stout. He's owned by Flaxman Holdings, which is the Niarchos family. They are 6 for 18 in Breeders' Cup races. That's phenomenal. Michael Stout's won the Turf 4 times. This horse is training fantastic. He looks great. He's 12-1 on the morning line.
I'm looking forward to the mile with Tepin versus Lamato. I think he's stretching out a bit to the mile, but he's been phenomenal in Europe. And Tepin, of course, has had a sensational year, so that could be a thrilling finish as well. There's so much to look forward to with all these races. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show presented by Woodbine Racetrack. Hope you do well in your wagers and enjoy the races.